I don't know. I can't find it. But anyway, I look. I have a whole new setup over here, and it's kind of throwing me off because I'm like, I need to have standing desk only for now, and I can't be sitting down anymore.
I know.
Oh yeah. So you talk about feeling at home in the world because of the multiple identities you have, but that feeling also oscillating between feeling at home and feeling exasperated.
Exacerbated.
Exasperated. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. So anyway, tell us, what does that mean for you?
Feeling at home in the world. I think, I think the cool thing about my parents is my parents are also from the Bay, and they had this political idea, I think, back before it was cool. So when we were born, my mom sat us down, she like cut a sandwich in thirds, and she was like, okay, you're Black, and she gave me a part of the sandwich, and you're Norwegian, and you're Chinese, and you never have to choose. And I think my parents always gave us permission just to take up space and never have to choose. So I think in that way, I've always felt at home in the world where I'm okay to take up space. But then sometimes it is exacerbating, like completely exacerbating. And I think it's just also being an observer of the world, like sometimes I think also not being able to participate in a way where it feels fully you, can be exacerbating. And being an observer of the world also, I think, can be exacerbating.
So let me ask you this. I think it's exciting that you take agency, you do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And a lot of people, and I saw this when Bush was elected, and certainly when Donald Trump was elected, people were like, I'm out. I can't be in the United States under authoritarian rule. And you took that leap. You actually left and moved to Copenhagen. And I want to talk about like your history and the arc of your work, but I'm interested in that piece. Like, what was, tell us about the kind of like decision, the bravery. What did it take for you to move here and to go to a place that you had never lived before?
Well, my dad's military, so we grew up moving a lot. And I think for me, it was, and I'm spiritual and woo-woo. So I got all these signs about moving, and I was like, oh, I'll just move to LA. And then, but it was very clear, like the signs were not like move to LA. It was like, in fact, someone called me and was like, we were meditating for you, and we saw you move to a place that was blue and cold. And I was literally like, oh, that's LA. I'm going to move to LA, which is like
blue and cold. Okay.
That's like, but when it wasn't working out, like doors were just closing, I was like, okay, I need to quit playing. And I had taught some classes when I was young, like in 23 in Copenhagen. And I had always known I would come back here. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm just going to take the leap to Copenhagen. And for me, it was like people are really surprised that someone like Trump can get into office. And that's never been surprising for me. I've always been like, well, America's always been racist and it's always been sexist. So that wasn't the impetus to move. The impetus to move was to really explore life outside of a capitalist system. Or, like comfortably. I mean, I wasn't going to go to like Tanzania, but I was like, I need like fucking coffee and shit. Like
Tanzania's popping. They grow coffee in Tanzania. But so what does that look like? I mean, I'm interested to know just in terms of like your everyday experiences. Give us a slice of life. What does it mean living outside of a hyper-capitalistic society like the U.S. and then living in Copenhagen?
It's such a wrestle because when I got here, I just realized like how much anxiety we have, just that we don't even think of as anxiety, like freaking out about everything, and just also freaking out about things that matter. Like a lot of us have to freak out about healthcare, or we have to freak out about taking education seriously, especially as people of color. We have to freak out about taking education seriously,
Yeah.
But just seeing like people really just have like this space, like it's a what you do. Like, there are people who get their masters and they're happy to work at like a little deli, you know. And it plays out also in the quality of life. Like, people really do value like vacation or rest, and when it's time to be done with work, it's time to be done with work, you know, kind of thing. So I think in a lot of ways what that did was give me space to imagine, and give me space to create, and give me space to like think beyond surviving.
So. I love that. Let's go. Well, so full disclosure to all the party people out there, Amanda has been, I would say, my right-hand person for almost a decade now. We started working together when I was writing Afro Vegan, and you know, I call Amanda behind closed doors my consigliere, kind of like that, the person who's like the closest advisor to mob bosses. Not that I'm in any criminal activity, but I would say, you know, many of my most important decisions I will check in with Amanda about. And so, alongside supporting me, working with me on projects over the years, you've been a serial entrepreneur. And that's one of the things that I've always liked about you, is just really hustling to bring these ideas to life, create different projects and businesses. And so when I first met you, you were actually working on, it's funny, it's Cranky Boots, right? Yep. I always think Kinky Boots because of the Broadway show. And I've never asked you this, but I'm wondering, can you tell us about the origins of your confection company? Just the name, why Cranky Boots? But tell us a little bit about, you know, you moving from, you know, the South where you were in college, coming back to the Bay, and then starting this company. What was the origins of that?
So actually, I went to college both in North Carolina and in California.
Okay.
And so then the second time that I went to university, after university, I moved back up to Oakland, and I was dating this guy, and he was so moody, and I would just call him Cranky Boots. And then we had the idea to
Okay, all right.
It would always be like, "Oh, you're being Cranky Boots," and then we were just like, "Let's call." We wanted to do a business together, and then we had the idea to call it Cranky Boots.
Yeah.
I think at some point he would like use that terminology against me. So
why popsicles? So you went to cooking school. Did you have a particular emphasis in culinary school? And I'm wondering, you know, in terms of the first business, why popsicles or ice pops? So what, you know, I don't know how you describe them. But...
Yeah, I think we're not allowed to say popsicles.
That's like a branded name, right? So so ice pops.
Because I actually discovered that ice pops were created in the Bay.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah, they started everything started in the Bay.
Pretty much.
That's how we do. So I was like, oh, let's show it back to like, it was something that I recognized as something like being original in the Bay, and also something that was like a novelty and nostalgic, and that I think nobody was doing at the time.
Not really. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I used to love to see you all out at public events and just really pounding the pavement. So you had Cranky Boots Confections. When did you start your supper club, Five and Dime?
Five and Dime, I started right after we got done with Afro Vegan, or maybe a little bit before we got done with Afro Vegan. And that was, I loved that. I really loved that. That was a really awesome experience for me.
So. Yeah, that was a really powerful project you created. Can you tell people about the supper club? Because I feel like at the time there were supper clubs were kind of a thing, but yours was unique. I really love the way that you presented the food. But just tell us more about like the Five and Dime.
Five and Dime was also a throwback. Five and Dime, 510 area code.
You be repping the Bay hard.
I be always repping the Bay hard. So basically, but what my focus was, I think I really liked the intersection. There were two things happening, or what I was discovering as a sociologist in food, was one, this idea of what eating together could mean, like what emotions we could explore through eating together, and two, exploring the intersection of art and food. So what I would do is invite artists in to come, and we would highlight these artists, and then I would create a meal based on their work. So if it was a painter, you know, I would research their work and then create a menu based on how they did their work, basically. Or a writer, I would do the same thing. And so it was really cool to have that intersection between art, and culinary arts is an art, but it was like, and I think I got that idea really from just reading like Water for Chocolate, how she was able to transmute like emotion and all those things. And I was like, I want to do that. That's where I want to be with food.
I know one thing that I appreciate about your approach to cooking is that you do hold space for like spirit and connection, and it kind of weaves into your work in different ways. And so before you really launched into your work in the food world, you were actually a minister, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us about that period of your life? And I'm wondering if you could just expound upon your thoughts on like these deeper connections, thinking about the unseen, ancestor, spirit, you know, and how that kind of intersects with your practice around food.
I think something for me was I was always obsessed with how in Black American history, how the church was a beacon for community. So I think for me, it's always been about community, not necessarily theology. And then I grew up in a type of Christianity where it was very outreach based. So it was all about taking care of the least of these. So I've always been interested in exploring how to create community in a way that takes that holds space for people who are marginalized. And I think, you know, the church gets sometimes a bad rap, and it's deserved, but also there's just places in the church where it really was a community space where that's where you would go, you know. And I really got, sorry, go ahead.
Were you doing youth ministry? Was that like a focus of yours?
Yeah, I was doing both youth ministry, and then I was teaching, which sometimes I still teach, just through a different lens. I was teaching clairvoyance, like, because I went to school for like, you know, I went to like a Hogwarts. So I was teaching like how to like hear the universe and how to like, you know, get what we would call prophetic words. So
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like that was that much of a pivot for you to, you know, move from doing this work, community building through the lens of faith-based institutions to working around food, because so much of your focus on food, it has been about building community as well. And I love that you carry that through. I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, you know, just kind of coming from thinking about all your businesses and your appreciation of beauty and how you try to weave that in. I love your artistic eye, and I think about just your design. I mean, just the logos, like the Five and Dime logo was super tight. The Blues Woman logo is ridiculous, which we'll talk about that in a second. I love the Cranky Boots logo, and sometimes I don't think people who are starting businesses think about the importance of having like a beautiful, striking, you know, logo and brand identity. And I feel like that's something that you're thinking of, you know, at the top as soon as you start to kind of conceive of a project. Can you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on just the way in which beauty and art play into like the different brands of projects and businesses you start?
Yeah, I mean, I just love, I've always loved art and color, but also too, like from just a practical standpoint, like I think about when I go and buy something at a store, and if the label's looking all boo-boo, I'm like, nah, I don't want it, you know. I mean, we buy like, that's mostly what we buy is a label. Like, is it beautifully done? That's what attracts us to. And I think those things, and it doesn't make us something, right? It doesn't, like me buying something that's beautifully made doesn't add to who I am, but it informs who I am, and it informs how I see the world, and it informs how I'm inspired by the world. And I think that that's something that I want to do with the things that I create, is inform people and have it touch them in a way that helps them to think critically or think artistically or think aesthetically.
What's
So
your process of collaborating with artists? Do you have a strong vision when you come in, for example, with something like a logo, or do you follow their lead? I'm just interested to know the kind of nuts and bolts
no,
with the
I
different way
always
you work
like,
on. Yeah,
even with all three of them, the thing is I can see it in my head, and then but I don't know how to like get it down
execute
on
it.
paper. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
execute it. So I'll it's really like it's really a collaboration, but also it's me like being like, this is the direction that I want. And then trusting the artist, not micromanaging, and trusting the artist to kind of get to know you,
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, well, I know you. What do you think about this? And also being honest. Like if you don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
they appreciate if you just say, I want. And also knowing exactly what you want, because it's also annoying to work with people who are like, I don't like it.
But not
And
really
like,
having some
right.
some actual concrete feedback to
Right.
give. Yeah.
Right. So knowing like, okay, well, I like yellow, but I want it to be a paler yellow or a turmeric yellow, or, kind of thing. And so
Mm-hmm. Along those lines, do you have any tips for budding entrepreneurs, people who are interested in start? I mean, and granted, we're in a moment where I don't know if it's the smartest thing to start something right now, but I'm hoping that things will open up and we'll be able to have access to capital and just do things that might be a little more challenging now in the coming I'll say years. I'm not going to even say months. In 2023, we'll be able to start that again. But do you have any tips for budding entrepreneurs? Just some lessons learned, just a couple of bullet points that you'd share in terms of like what you might have done differently, or what was just like good decisions that have really helped your projects thrive?
I think lessons learned would be like, I think there's so much pressure on Black Americans, especially to be successful. And I think a lesson learned for me is that you don't have to be reactionary. Like, even when it just comes to business, like we don't have to be, and we also don't have to adhere to business values that are rooted in white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
And I think being okay with not making it to the top or being greedy,
Mm-hmm.
is is like, I've always known I don't want to be greedy, but it's always like being okay with that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is something that I had to work through. Like, okay, like so and so is getting all the fame, but what does that mean for my brand, or kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I think that's something I would just say, like, one, be okay with making mistakes, and then two, just really not to be reactionary. Like, be true to your brand. If maybe this will make you more money, but is that really where you want to take your brand, or really
Mm-hmm.
where you want to take, is that the heart of your food business?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have to adhere to those types of business practices.
Yeah. I totally feel you. I feel like one thing that I'm constantly working on, because it's a practice, and I feel like it's a practice that I have to engage daily, but really not allowing myself to get wowed and get an ego and a big head about accolades and
Right.
whatever type of whatever, just all the like the big ups, but also not allowing myself to get so mired in moments of, I won't even call it failure, but just when things may not go the way in which I imagine them.
Right.
And so, the thing I try to hold on to is this idea that like I'm not good, or I'm not like a good person, or I'm not lovable or whatever because of the work that I do, but
Right.
because I am who I am and I exist, and I'm a reflection of infinite intelligence, the one mind, the one spirit, the one source, all that, and that's what should give
Right.
me that confidence and bravado when I need it and whatever. And so, I feel like it's a practice, but I think that I love that it seems like everything you approach, you kind of have this critical lens around just like spirit and connection, and just like, really being true to yourself and who you are and envision, and not letting things kind of like sway you from that. I want to talk about your move to Copenhagen, and then one of the projects that I love that you started there was the Blues Woman.
Yeah.
I I felt like it was so powerful for you to kind of plant your pole, create space for Southern food in Copenhagen, and like I said, I just loved everything about it. Just the logo. Whenever you would shoot when you shared photographs of the events, everything just was like spot on. And I'm wondering if you could tell us about the Blues Women, and where is it now? Is it still happening? Is it on hold? Just give us a little, because I guess the Blues Woman was going to be a restaurant, but the precursor
Right.
to that was just pop-up. So yeah, just tell us everything. Take us through the whole arc.
Okay, so for me, it was more about, so when I was talking about like how Copenhagen really gave me space to imagine, um, I wanted something radical for women to like holding space for women to be able to tell their story. And I read the Building Chicken Houses Out of Chicken Legs book, and in there she has when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, this is my great grandma. My great grandma moved from yes. It's such a great book. It's such a great book.
Yeah,
But
so for the party people out there, it's Building Houses Out of Chicken Legs. Black Women, Food and Power by our brilliant scholar and colleague, Psyche Williams Forson. So anyway, I just wanted people need to know about the book. So I just wanted to show it
yeah,
to them.
it's such a good book. But I remember she has this line, I remember like being informed for the first time about how Black women specifically would use cooking as an instrument to get to the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's my great grandma. She moved from Texas. She became a chef in San Francisco. She'd be a chef by today's standards, but she was just called a cook back then,
Yeah.
for rich white people. And because of that, she was able to open all these restaurants in the Bay and like hold it down.
Yeah.
And it was never the cooking that moved me. It was more, the Blues Woman was called the Blues Woman because it was about holding space for women to be able to tell their story.
Mm.
And one of the ways for me that I tell my story is cooking, but I imagine it, you're a poet, you're a singer, you're a writer, you come in, you share, we hold space for you to do your thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it kind of like all melts together kind of thing. And I want it to hold stake specifically for Black women to, because at that time, Southern food wasn't like, I mean, now I think the Blues Woman is a bit obsolete because there's space for people to tell their story. But at that time, people weren't really telling that story. And so,
Were there options for Southern food or Southern food, I'll say, in Copenhagen at that time?
no, but even in the US, there weren't really options for for Southern food. I don't even, it's just now started to be like, oh yeah, we can tell our story in their space. But
Mm-hmm.
I just want, and the thing that I think rubbed me was that I wanted it to be where Black people could be, but I knew that there wasn't space to do it where Black people were.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, I just had to do it prophetically. Like, this is where I have space to do it, and so I'm going to try to do it. So.
Yeah, I love that. It just reminds me of the way in which it's almost like you were a seer. And I think you saw this moment where we'd be, man, so many places are closed. But, where we have like Eduardo Jordan and we have Kwame Onwuachi and we have like these restaurants that not only serve Black food, but are really narrative driven and tell these stories. And, I just feel like, wow. Yeah, I'm interested to know what are the plans for it now, just given the COVID-19 shelter in place, and thinking about the impact that this moment is having on a lot of our food entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
Restaurants are closing. People are uncertain about their future in terms of their businesses. Like, what's going on with the Blues Women?
Well, I'm facing deportation in Copenhagen, so right now I can't do anything under that name, the Blues Woman, until we get the deportation thing sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, I'm facing deportation for volunteering, which is just an anti-immigrant. They're very anti-immigration, so they, anything that can that is the rules were not created for people like me, but they sweep up people like me, because that's what their policy is about. So I can't really do anything. I've just reopened the Instagram page just to hold space for Black people because there's so much racism happening here in Denmark right now. Just to kind of like say, hey, Black people are here. We're here. I see you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also too, I think having the blues woman, like I had really horrible business partners, Danish business partners, and it was a heartbreaking period, having her not being able to open a brick and mortar like changed, like really pushed me into this place where it's like you said, where I was not trying to find my identity in a product that I was making, but just being content in who I am. And I in that process, I was like, you know what? I don't want to cook. I don't want my passions to be how I make money. I want my passions to be how I find joy. And I love cooking for my friends, and I love holding space, but I can do that without feeling like I need to make some money off of it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I just wanted to shift gears just briefly, if you don't mind. Can you talk about just, contemporary race relations in Denmark? I think a lot of people have these vision, people imagine it being this kind of utopic space, and somehow that, like, people of color who might move or migrate there are somehow kind of enjoying many of the privileges that white Europeans might. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are around just race relations, and especially in this moment where in the moment that we're in.
So actually a group of people and I were creating a campaign, an anti-tourism campaign against Denmark, where we're asking people not to come to Denmark because it's racist. And we're getting that off the ground, and we're going to do it in an artistic way, do a lot of our stuff in an artistic way. But it's very racist here. A young man was just killed by a white supremacist.
Is that the one on the that island?
Yep, on Bornholm. Yeah. The family doesn't want us to say his name, so I'm not going to say his name. But
you don't even have Denmark, to. You don't even have to talk about what happened. That was
it's horrible. But Denmark, one, refuses to recognize it as a hate crime, and then on top of that, they asked Danish people if racism exists in Denmark. 51% of people in Denmark said no, despite the fact that if your name is Muhammad, you don't get hired for a job, despite the fact that they still have a dessert called nigger kiss. And people like say it like, I'm gonna and then there's been recent like people doubling down on being able to call something like these slurs like Eskimo pie or a nigger kiss. And so you see this stuff like all the time in Denmark. You see, like, we have like anti-immigration laws out the wahoo, which I've been swept up in. We have these thing called ghetto laws where it's just and it's like a form of neocolonialism where they make immigrants put their kids in like daycare so that they can assimilate if they're under a certain like income bracket and stuff like that. So it's
that really sounds like those boarding schools that they were snatching up Native American children to.
Exactly. So it's really racist here. And I would say do not come here. And we're going to do a big campaign about not visiting here. And if you do visit, like supporting Black and brown business and stuff like that.
Like that's a lot. And not that coming from the States, it's not a lot too, because obviously this place is racist out the wazoo, as you would say. And I think living in the, what's up?
That's the thing is, and actually someone just wrote an article, but I've always talked about this. It is racist in America, but we handle our shit. What's crazy here is people gaslight you, and they won't acknowledge that it's racist. They really like try to make you feel like you're crazy because they called you a nigger, and you're like, so.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, so how are you fortifying yourself? Tell me more about just how you're taking care of yourself in, a place where you're having to deal with these type of like macro in your face, as well as I'm sure a lot of microaggressions. Um, how are you like fortifying yourself just like in terms of your own personal health, but then also like with community and others who can support you and make you feel sane
Yeah.
and loved and supported and all that?
I have an amazing community here. I think that's one of the only reasons, and that is the only reason why I've stayed. I have a dope apartment, that's also, but I have an amazing, I have an amazing community that is otherworldly. Like I think it's also because the quality time, when you're in the US, and I've thought about moving back to the US several times, but the thing that keeps me from doing it is, well, I'll never have a chance to make the friends that I have because I'm going to be working 60, 80 hours a week. And here it's very common on a Tuesday, you want to have a coffee with a friend and be intentional and put your phone down. You can do it. So I've been able to build these amazing relationships with people here that are, I would say, lifelong relationships. And the one thing about Danish people is if they decide to be your friend, they're your friend for life. They're like super loyal friends. And so I have a dope community here. And then, I do kickboxing and I do, reading and watering my plants. And I think a lot of this time has been fortifying me and finding moments of joy, really, just in the little everyday things that, not reaching like this crazy happiness that we're conditioned to believe that we should have, but just really like being grounded and being like, that whatever broccoli was amazing, roasted broccoli was and I'm gonna enjoy that because
No doubt.
I know it sounds cliche, but it's really finding joy in the little things.
I don't think it's cliche, and I think that's something that I'm sure has been more prevalent for people, as you're staying home and just trying to figure out how to survive this, how to thrive within this context, and then just how to find joy in things that, we were talking about the other day. Like, clearly, we're not going to be jumping on a plane for a long time. And my
Right.
family went up to like Susanville. It was this beautiful, like, alpine lake. And we just realized that there's so much beauty in California that we aren't taking advantage of, because so often when we imagine, going on vacation, it's to like, we want to go to Maui, or we want to go to, we're going to Turks and Caicos or whatever. And it's like, no, we don't need to be flying across the world to find beauty, to disconnect. And so I totally think that this moment I hope that a lot more people are rediscovering how the simple pleasures in life, the bounty that's local, just the everyday joys are so important. I don't know if people also are aware that you're a talented food stylist. You're just like such a multi hyphenate. But I'm interested to know about your food styling, and then we'll pivot into you actually authoring your first book, which will be out in the fall. But just tell us about how you started food styling. Did you mentor? Did you have mentors? Did you
When we
intern,
did
work with
Afro
folks?
Vegan,
Huh?
I had no idea of, like, that opened my eyes when we did Afro Vegan. And Karen Shinto, is that her name?
Karen Shinto, yeah.
She when I was watching her in the kitchen, I was like, I want to do this. Like, it was like a game changer for me. And I was like, and I also knew that I wanted my own cookbook at some point, and I knew that I had to be a master of every part of having your own cookbook, like owning from, A to Z what it means to have a cookbook.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I had to do food styling and learn food styling. And also Karen, she was just so inspiring. And I was like, I really, really, really want to do this. So then when I moved to Copenhagen, they're all about aesthetics here also. And so I started to work with this lady named Mette Helbeck, and she was an amazing food stylist for the time. And she taught me everything she knew. And I would just go to the studio with her and watch her, and she would let me style stuff, and she showed me like the tricks of the trade. And I just I knew that my time with her would be short, but I knew that I had to learn like as much as I possibly could. And so I just learned and watched and observed and took it from there.
Yeah. So. Well, obviously that foundation she provided was important in honing your craft because you are the author of a forthcoming book. I think a lot of people are probably aware of one of the biggest shows of NBC back in the day, which now is a cookbook, and it's the Apprentice Cookbook that Amanda Yee, the Donald Trump Apprentice Cookbook, she's going to be now. I'm tripping. I'm joking. But, you know, did you know that The Apprentice was like the second most popular show behind Friends?
No, I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that. I didn't even know Friends was that popular until they asked me to write it.
I mean, that show was huge back in the day. But no, so I just want to say I watched this documentary. Oh, it's a multi-episode docuseries on Netflix called Dirty Money.
Yeah.
And let me encourage everyone out there to please watch this episode on Donald Trump. It's called The Confidence Man, as in the con man. And when you see this episode, it's just gonna, I mean, like, I think most people are like, how did he become president? But after seeing just like his trajectory and how much of a failure he's been as a business person, it's just like, and he's a con man. And it's just like, how is this person running this country right now? So anyway, Dirty Money, Netflix, The Con Man, The Confidence Man episode about your boy Donald Trump. Yes, thank you.
That's
somebody. No. Somebody thank you. Somebody had to big up Living Single because we know that Friends was they bit that and like they always do. So anyway, thank you for shouting that out. But anyway, Amanda, you were tapped to write and style the Friends official cookbook. Tell us about that. How did you even how did folks contact you? How did they even, because this is being published in the US, right?
Yeah, it's going to be published in the US.
Yeah, so how did they even tap you to be a part of this?
They like my food styling. And they were like, cool. And I was like, I need the money, so we gonna do this.
So what was that like? I mean, you weren't even a fan of Friends. Did you go back and devour all the episodes to prepare?
Why you say devour like that? You know I didn't devour. It was so painful. I had to watch every episode. It was so painful. I maybe laughed like twice, and I was like, "This is some bullshit." Every time, and then I would go and check and see how many episodes. I'd be like, God dang it, I have 13 episodes left of this season. This is killing me.
Yeah.
And I 2 weeks, and also too, it's not just watching, right? You have to look at it through a sociological lens. You have to be like, would Joey eat that? Mm-hmm. Or in what context would Monica make that? And
right. So are you actually did your research consist of you literally replicating dishes that were cooked on the show or that might have shown up on the show? Or are you just imagining dishes that they might have eaten on the show?
Both. So that was the cool thing. I had to have some iconic dishes that Friends fans would be upset if they weren't in there. Mm-hmm. But I also got to look at the storyline and do a sociological research and be like, okay, Monica would make this and this and this like this. And there's in the 90s there's an official.
One of the viewers, Vivian, said, "Oh my God, the research! They should have paid you for those hours. Did you feel like you got properly compensated for all that grueling research?"
No. They really, they were really exploitative. Yeah. Really, and it's still now. If there's a lawyer out there watching this, I need your help.
Call them all out, Amanda. Call them all out.
They were they're so awful. They canceled a shoot and didn't want to pay me for the canceled shoot. And we had spent so much money on the canceled shoot, and they were super tight. They didn't reimburse me for receipts until March.
Okay. I'm not trying to get you in trouble with folks in there.
No, it's too late. The book's on print. It's on them.
When does the book actually come out?
It comes out in September.
Mm-hmm. So, are you expected to do any of the promotion, or is it something where they're actually gonna rope the former cast in to help promote the book, or what's promotion and marketing gonna look like for the project?
I don't have to do anything. In fact, and I don't get paid any royalties. So if you buy the book, you buy it, and if you don't, you're not helping. Good luck. Yeah. But it's already a bestseller, and it's clearly not because of me. It's a bestseller because Friends is so popular.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Noma. Noma's here. Nopa's in Copenhagen, right?
No, Noma is here.
Yeah, Nopa's here. Noma's there.
Yeah.
Is it worth all the hype? What's up with that? People, describe
You
it as the
already
best
know it's
restaurant
not.
in the world, and you have to get reservations months in advance. And Rene Redzepi is just the, brilliant, whatever he is. So tell me more about what's your thoughts on Noma?
White supremacy. That's my thought. Mic drop. White supremacy. Mic drop.
Okay, we keeping it real up in here today.
Michelin stars, it's a good old boys club. We've always known that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a gatekeeping good old boys club. And I'm not saying that Rene Redzepi is a white supremacist, but I'm saying that if he would have done that shit, if he would have been the new Mexican cuisine in Mexico, nobody would have paid attention to his ass. It's because
But he did do the Mexico restaurant in Mexico.
Yeah, after he did the new Nordic cuisine, which is Californian cuisine in Denmark. Nobody would have. No, they were like, get this motherfucking ant paste out of here. But
yeah.
So what it is, and it's not just him. It's fine dining is really antithetical to community eating. Believe that, and it's an elitist experience that makes people feel good about themselves, not what's actually on the plate.
Yeah.
And you can say, "Oh, I had that, and you didn't," and so of course it's the best cucumber foam you've ever had in your life.
Yeah. Somebody had kind of chuckled at me, Thelma Gold, big up to Thelma Gold, and chuckled at me saying, whatever he is in terms of Rene Redzepi, but that came from this place of me really interrogating what does it mean when you're an executive chef of a restaurant and you're getting all these awards and accolades, and other people are doing all the labor. We recently, I think a lot of people, maybe people outside the food world, aren't aware, but there have been a dust up with Squirrel, the restaurant in Los Angeles, and they found out that they had some really shady practices. A lot of them around safety and sanitation, which might kill their brand. But I think more than that, I was really upset with the fact that a lot of the former chefs there and people who were working for her, they weren't getting credit for their creations and their labor. And then, she's getting all these awards and she's not acknowledging the people who are actually, feeding her and ensuring that she has the dope recipes. And I think that's just something we see throughout the industry, especially. And I'm excited that people are really pushing back against this idea of celebrity chefs.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you have some thoughts on just the kind of the way we often deify these people who are working in the food industry and at the expense of an erasure of so many other people who are in the back of the house, in the front of the house, just really holding it down and doing a lot of the work.
Well, I think it's bullshit, and again, I think it takes away from this idea of what food is about. It's just another thing, a capitalist thing, and I think that's also why I was so relieved to not get away from the Blues Woman, but to not have her be a restaurant, because I didn't want to get caught in that just making money and needing to survive and not really holistically feeding people, mind, body, and spirit kind of thing.
No doubt.
And not also really how I'm contributing to the world, not just in my restaurant, but how is this contributing to the environment, or how is this contributing to my neighbors, and so stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think it's crap. I think we need to, but Also, I don't know.
Yeah, say no more.
Yeah.
Vivian, I
What's
think,
up, Vivian?
writes, squirrel owner is trash.
She is tough. I
From
don't know if
stealing work to health hazards to actively destroying the community through gentrifying the quote unquote shitty corner, which was a quote that Jessica Kozlow made about the geographic location of a restaurant. So yeah, they're trash. I agree.
I mean, the food was never good either. It's always like me and Kimberly Chow, who she might be bad that I'm calling her out on this. We were always like, "What is this?"
It's the hype.
Boo boo.
We know about the hype that comes along with many of the gentrified restaurants, and that's a whole other topic. But anyway,
you're always like eating and looking around, like, does anyone else taste what I'm tasting?
So Amanda, you've been getting a lot of love. Do you have anything that you want to share? Anything emerging for you in terms of, I don't know, research, upcoming projects? What's your vision for Amanda Yee over the next couple of years?
Amanda Yee is going to be whole and loved and joyful, and that's the vision. Like,
There it is.
there it is. Yeah.
I love that.
And love and spread joy. I mean, I don't want to sound too woo woo, but that's, yeah. I want to move away from feeling like I need to reach the top, because what is the top?
I totally agree. I hope that this moment is pushing a lot of us to rethink our values, to rethink what success is, and just to look within. And that's something that I've been doing, and as much as possible, encouraging my people to do that as well. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And you're also helping me, or we are working together on Black Food, my forthcoming book, or the forthcoming Black Food and Friends. I'm trying to think about how I want to actually talk about it, because I know my name will be on the cover, but it's Bryant, Terry, and Friends. And you're obviously at the top of that, but it's been so exciting just being able to connect with a lot of community and colleagues and people around the world and bringing them together to be a part of this project. So I'm blessed that you're right beside me, helping to shape this book and bring it to life. And I'm so happy that you came into my life, and that we're friends, and that you're my little sister, and that you, believed in me way back in the day, because I wasn't where I was now in 2012 or 13 when we started working. And
no, but your work was fire.
I appreciate that. All right.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate you and all that you do for me, and being a good friend and mentor.
Thank you. I'm here for you.
I know.
Once again, Kaiser Permanente. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for throwing those papers our way. Thank you for helping to support MoAD. Thank you for helping me pay my mortgage, all that. I love y'all, Kaiser.
That's the place of my birth, too. What's up, Kaiser? Thank you for birthing me.
Yo,
safely.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kaiser,
right.
Thank you, Kaiser, for your Walnut Creek birthing center that actually allows midwives to bring the babies into the world, where both of our babies were born at the Kaiser in Walnut Creek. So big up to Kaiser.
I was born on Broadway. I was born on the Kaiser on Broadway. I don't know how good that was in the 80s, but I'm here.
So. Well, the one on Broadway now, they're like leveling up. So
are they?
Yeah, they are. But you know why they're leveling up now.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Probably when I was there. Who knows? I gotta ask my parents. What was that like?
All right, Amanda. Have a great. What's it like? It's almost 1 there. Get you some rest.